Earth had forgotten the sound of freedom. The sky was no longer blue, only the dull silver haze of War Patrol ships that crawled through the clouds like metal vultures. Cities were quiet graves where the bones of skyscrapers reached for a sun that no one had seen in years. The Vor Dominion called it peace, humanity called it silence. Every voice that spoke of resistance had been erased. Every dream of rebellion, crushed under alien boots. Humanity's pride had been dismantled, piece by piece, until all that remained was survival. Elias Ward remembered the day Earth surrendered. He was a soldier once, young, defiant, believing no enemy could ever break the human spirit. But the Vord didn't conquer through war. They conquered through inevitability. They blocked the skies, shut down power grids, and made Earth's oceans boil with orbiting weapons. When the first cities fell, humanity still fought. When the last city fell, humanity wept. Elias survived the purges, but survival felt like betrayal. He worked now in a mining colony outside the ruins of Chicago, extracting minerals that fed the war machines. Every day was the same. Wake, work, obey. Hope was a forgotten language. Yet somewhere in that silence, something stirred. On the 200th day of the war's peace, an old communications array flickered to life in the ruins of the North Tower. The signal was faint, cracked with static, but human. Elias was repairing a broken power conduit when he heard the pulse. 3 short beeps, 2 long, 1 short. Morse code, a dead language that only old soldiers still knew. He froze, staring at the blinking light, translating each pulse by instinct. The message repeated twice before fading into the static. The flame still burns. For a moment, he thought it was a cruel joke. The Vor often used false transmissions to lure out dissenters. But something about the rhythm, the pauses, the urgency, felt human, real. He spent the next hour rebuilding the array, boosting the signal, hoping for more. Nothing came, just the hiss of empty air. But even silence sounded different now. It wasn't the silence of defeat. It was the silence before a storm. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He lay on the cold ground of his quarters, eyes open, staring at the ceiling as the words repeated in his mind. The flame still burns. He remembered stories from the Resistance War, before Earth fell, how the Mars colonies had gone dark, cut off during the first planetary strikes. The Vor claimed Mars was destroyed, vaporized by orbital bombardment. Yet what if that wasn't true? What if humanity hadn't died out there? What if they were still fighting? The next morning, he went to the outer tunnels where few dared to go. He found old communication officers, men and women who once ran the defense grids before the surrender. They were tired, beaten, and afraid. But when he told them about the signal, their eyes changed. The mention of Mars was like oxygen to a suffocating fire. They helped him check the frequency logs. The transmission didn't match Vor channels. It came from deep space, precisely where the Mars relay stations used to orbit. They couldn't confirm the source, but it didn't matter. Belief had already taken root. Word spread quietly through the colony. Miners whispered it in tunnels, traders in markets, scavengers in the ruins. The flame still burns. The phrase became a spark of rebellion that no Vor could trace. The Dominion noticed unrest rising, and their enforcers responded with terror. Drones descended into the tunnels, executing anyone caught whispering. But fear couldn't kill what had already awakened. Elias watched it happen, the slow shift from despair to defiance. People began to look each other in the eye again. They shared food, pass-coded notes, repaired old devices. He saw a young girl carve a symbol into the wall, a simple flame surrounded by a circle. Underneath it, one word, hope. When the Vor Patrol passed by, Elias stood silent, staring at that wall, pretending to work. But inside, something broke free. He had spent years believing humanity was finished. Now he realized they had only been waiting for a reason to fight again. That night, he returned to the communications array. The system was unstable, the power lines old, but he forced it to life once more. The static roared through the speakers as he typed in a response, a message to whoever had sent the signal. He hesitated for a moment, hands trembling, then pressed transmit. His voice was rough, almost foreign to his own ears. "If Mars still fights," he said softly, "then so will Earth." The words echoed through the empty room, through the static, through the broken silence of a conquered world. Elias sat back and watched the monitor blink. Outside, the Vor ship still crawled across the sky, but for the first time in years, he didn't feel small beneath them. Humanity had been quiet for too long. The flame was real. It was time to remember what it meant to be human. The message spread like a whisper carried by wind, unseen, unstoppable. Across shattered cities and buried shelters, people began to repeat it quietly. The flame still burns. The Vor Dominion tightened control, deploying drones, scanners, and mind probes to locate the source of defiance. But resistance was not something they could detect. It lived in hearts, not signals. Elias Ward moved through the ruins with a purpose now. The message had awakened something ancient in him, a duty buried under years of submission. He began seeking out the old resistance cells that had gone dormant since the fall. Many were gone, their members executed or scattered, but some still remained, broken yet breathing. The first contact was a woman named Dr. Hannah Ruiz, a systems engineer who once worked on planetary defense AI. She lived beneath the ruins of Denver, running a black market power exchange to keep civilians alive. When Elias told her about the Mars signal, she didn't laugh or doubt. She simply said, "Then the universe just made its first mistake. It reminded us we exist." Together, they began to reconnect the underground network, sending coded messages through abandoned satellite grids. The Vor's surveillance systems, built for domination, were now being used against them. Humans used broken tech, rewired alien parts, and turned discarded tools into weapons of communication. In the Vor High Command, the alarms began to rise. Reports showed increased collaboration between human labor sectors. The alien overseers called it behavioral drift. One Vor general observed, "They are inefficient, emotional, and irrational. Yet they persist." His superior replied coldly, "Persistence without logic is chaos. Chaos must be erased." Orders went out, raids, executions, data purges. But the harder they struck, the stronger the resistance grew. Elias and Hannah gathered others, technicians, medics, hackers, even children who scavenged batteries and circuits from abandoned factories. The network began to expand beneath the Dominion's nose. Humans called it the Veil. Its members wore no symbols, carried no banners, and left no trails. The Vor relied on patterns. Humanity became unpredictable. Where the aliens saw weakness, humans saw opportunity. They built small wins into momentum, intercepting Vor data streams, sabotaging energy conduits, stealing weapon components. In one operation, Hannah uncovered archived files from the old world, buried in what used to be the defense cloud. Inside was a partial blueprint for Project Helios, a gravitational weapon prototype designed before Earth fell. It had been deemed too unstable for use, capable of tearing small objects out of orbit by manipulating local gravity wells. To the Vor, it was worthless technology, too primitive. To humans, it was salvation. Elias studied the files late into the night, realizing its true potential. "We don't need to match their power," he said. "We just need to break their balance." Over the next months, secret caravans carried components across continents. Each group thought they were smuggling scrap. None knew the full plan. It was safer that way. The weapon core was rebuilt in an abandoned mining complex beneath the Himalayas, where Vor sensors couldn't penetrate the dense rock. Every piece came from stolen tech, reassembled with human ingenuity, an act of defiance wrapped in brilliance. The Vor began to sense something was wrong. Their drones detected minor gravitational disturbances but couldn't trace the source. The Dominion's central AI analyzed billions of variables and declared human resistance probability negligible. The analysis was wrong. Humans thrived when underestimated. Meanwhile, the resistance network started sending morale transmissions disguised as energy signatures. Across colonies, hidden radios crackled to life, carrying Elias's calm, deliberate voice, "You are not alone. They took our skies, not our will. The day is coming The words were simple, but they spread like wildfire. In every bunker and ruin, people began to prepare. They trained in secret, practiced sabotage, and learned how to fight again. For the first time in years, they looked up at the night sky not with fear, but with purpose. Children began drawing again, flames, stars, and flags. In one underground school, a young boy asked his teacher if humans could really win. She smiled faintly and replied, "We already are." "We remember." That sentence became a silent oath whispered across the colonies. "Remember who we are." Elias watched it unfold with quiet pride. What began as a message had become a movement. Humanity had no armies, no fleets, no leaders, only a shared truth that no alien could extinguish. They fought not for power, but for identity. Each act of rebellion, each stolen piece of technology, was a heartbeat in a growing rhythm of defiance. When the weapon was finally ready, Hannah looked at Elias and said, "The Vor will see this as madness." Elias smiled faintly. "Then they'll finally understand us." He activated the first secure transmission to every hidden outpost, his voice steady but charged with resolve. "To any human still alive, it begins tomorrow." At dawn, Earth trembled. Vor Command ships hovered silently above the planet, their sensors scanning for anomalies. For years, humans had been predictable, obedient, broken, silent. But now, something had shifted. Data logs showed sudden communication blackouts, coordinated power surges, and signal distortion spreading across continents. The Vor dismissed it as human error, until their orbital sensors began to fail one by one. What they didn't know was that humanity had already launched its counterstrike, not with fleets or armies, but with cunning. Elias Ward stood deep beneath the Himalayas as Project Helios roared to life. The weapon's unstable energy core hummed with gravity pulses, each one bending space by fractions of a second. Hannah Ruiz coordinated the sequence through dozens of linked terminals, rerouting the pulse through the old satellite array. The target wasn't the Vor's fleet directly. It was their shield harmonics. Every Vor ship relied on synchronized gravity stabilizers to maintain orbit. One interference wave in the right frequency, and the entire network would collapse. Elias gave the final order with a calm voice. "Begin transmission." The first Helios pulse surged through the atmosphere. Vor ships flickered as their shields sputtered and failed. Entire formations dropped out of synchronization, colliding in midair. Cities that had once been under the Dominion's shadow now saw the impossible, flames erupting in the sky as alien vessels spiraled downward. The Vor fleet scrambled to respond, deploying ground drones and bombers to eliminate the source. But humanity had prepared for this moment with ruthless precision. Resistance cells across Earth acted in perfect coordination. Power grids reactivated in long-dead cities, drawing Vor attention away from the true strike zones. Old transport vehicles became mobile weapon platforms. Human hackers hijacked Vor drones, turning them against their masters. The aliens' most advanced machines, built for domination, became tools of rebellion. The Vor's greatest weakness wasn't their technology, it was their arrogance. They had never fought an enemy that learned faster than them. In the first hour, human resistance destroyed over 30 control nodes. In the second, they breached the Vor's planetary communications. Elias broadcast the first free transmission since the fall, his voice echoing across every surviving radio and comlink. "This is humanity. You wanted silence. You will have none." Across the world, fighters cheered. They had no uniforms, no ranks, only one shared goal: to reclaim their world. The Vor High Command issued an extermination directive. Planetary bombardment protocols activated. But Helios had already done its work. The orbital weapons malfunctioned, their targeting arrays distorted by gravity interference. The Vor fired blindly, striking their own ships. For the first time, the Dominion tasted chaos. Ground battles ignited in every major ruin. Humans fought with stolen rifles, makeshift explosives, and hacked Vor plasma cutters. They moved like ghosts, striking fast and vanishing before counterfire. Every destroyed drone became a new weapon, every fallen human a reason to fight harder. There was no retreat, no surrender, no fear left to give. Humanity had nothing to lose and everything to remember. The Vor commanders could not comprehend it. Their simulations predicted surrender within an hour. Instead, they faced an enemy that adapted faster than their algorithms could calculate. Human tactics defied logic, attacking supply lines, overloading relay cores, using environmental hazards the Vor never considered threats. What they called chaos was actually instinct, honed through generations of survival on a hostile planet. As the hours passed, alien channels filled with static and panic. Vor pilots reported gravity fluctuations tearing through their fleets. Ships that tried to escape orbit were pulled back into the atmosphere, burning like falling stars. Alios had crippled their control fields permanently. The Dominion's command AI calculated catastrophic loss probability, 99%. Its final transmission to the High Command was simple: human error, underestimated. Elias led one of the final pushes through the ruins of New York, where Vor command nodes still operated. His team was small: engineers, medics, and scavengers armed with stolen weapons. But determination made them unstoppable. They breached the node and broadcast a final override code that shut down the Vor's planetary AI. Across the world, alien machines powered down. The silence that followed was deafening. Elias looked to the horizon as the Vor fleet began to retreat, abandoning Earth in chaos. Smoke rose from every direction, but the air smelled different: alive, defiant, free. "They thought they broke us," he said into his calm, voice steady despite exhaustion. "They just reminded us who we are." Above him, the remnants of the Vor fleet scattered into deep space, their once perfect formation shattered. Humanity had no grand victory parade, no medals, no leaders giving speeches. Only breathing survivors standing beneath a sky no longer owned by their oppressors. The fight was not over, but for the first time in generations, the impossible had happened. Earth had struck back, and the universe would never forget the day humanity learned to fight like humans again. The war ended not with celebration, but with silence. The Vor were gone, their ships reduced to drifting wreckage, their empire fractured by the one species they believed could never rise again. Earth stood scarred and hollow, its cities still burning, its people exhausted. Yet for the first time in a century, the sky belonged to humanity. The victory felt unreal, too vast to comprehend, too costly to measure. Millions were gone, and every survivor carried the weight of the fallen. But amid the ruin, there was something stronger than grief. It was pride. It was the unyielding awareness that humanity had done the impossible. In the aftermath, the remaining Vor signals faded into the dark. Their command systems went silent. Their AI cores shut down in confusion, unable to process how a primitive world had destroyed them. Their final data entry described humanity as an anomaly of persistence. They could not understand how chaos had triumphed over order, how emotion had shattered logic. To them, the battle was lost to a flaw in their predictions. To humanity, it was proof that no machine could ever calculate the human will. Elias Ward walked through the ruins of the old command bunker, now open to daylight for the first time in decades. Hannah Ruiz stood beside him, her face streaked with soot but alive with quiet triumph. "We did it," she said softly, almost in disbelief. Elias shook his head. "No, we didn't. Humanity did." Around them, the air buzzed with life again: radio chatter, laughter, the sound of rebuilding. Scavengers cleared debris. Engineers reactivated power grids. Medics treated the wounded in makeshift shelters. Humanity was already doing what it did best: rebuilding from ashes. The first United broadcast came 3 days later. Every colony, outpost, and surviving network received the same signal. A human voice declared, "The Dominion is fallen. The flame endures." Across Mars, Luna, Titan, and the scattered colonies, survivors responded with cheers and tears. For the first time since the Vor invasion, humanity spoke as one. There were no governments left, no borders, only a single message passed from planet to planet: "We are still here." In orbit, the remnants of the Vor fleet drifted lifeless, now monuments to their own arrogance. Human scavenger ships salvaged their technology, studying every fragment. The same alien science once used to enslave humanity would now rebuild it. Within weeks, engineers turned void gravity cores into clean energy sources. Communication beacons were restored using hybrid tech. What had once been tools of control became the foundation of freedom. But not everyone saw victory in the same way. Many feared the silence left behind. If the Vor could find Earth once, others might follow. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had revealed itself again. A race that fought back, that refused extinction. There would be others watching, calculating. Elias knew it, and so did the leaders forming the new alliance. Humanity's survival had just begun. Still, something had changed forever. The Vor historian, one of the few captured alive, was recorded saying, "They do not win because they are strong. They win because they cannot accept defeat. They carry within them an illness of defiance." That statement spread like wildfire among human ranks, turning into a badge of honor. The illness of defiance became humanity's new creed. The words were carved on banners, spoken in ceremonies, engraved into the hulls of rebuilt ships. It wasn't defiance against authority, but against extinction itself. Elias spent his final days overseeing the reconstruction of the Helios facility. The weapon that had won the war was now dismantled, its energy repurposed for planetary restoration. When asked why he ordered its destruction, he replied, "Because it was built to end things. Now we need to build to begin again." His words became part of the New Earth Charter, a declaration of peace that every human colony signed. They would no longer live in fear of domination. Neither alien nor human would rule through force again. In time, cities rose anew. Mars re-established contact with Earth, and for the first time in generations, the human species became interplanetary not through conquest, but through unity. The old nations were gone, replaced by a single name, the Terran Union. Every flag carried the same emblem, a rising phoenix over a burning flame. Humanity had not just survived, it had transformed. Elias died quietly years later, watching the sunrise from the rebuilt capital. His final words, recorded by Hannah, were simple: "We didn't win because of weapons. We won because we remembered what it means to stand together." Those words became the foundation of human identity, etched into every monument, every starship, every oath. When the first deep space probes left the solar system decades later, each carried a message written in 100 languages. To those who find this, know that humanity was here. We fought, we fell, we rose, and we will rise again. And so, under the vast quiet of the universe, Earth began anew. The Vor were gone, but their memory lingered as a warning to any who would seek to enslave the species born from chaos and fire. The stars, once symbols of domination, now shone as invitations. Humanity had proven its worth, not through conquest, but through courage. The universe would remember many wars, but only one race that turned despair into legend. The day humanity fought back was the day it became eternal.